Hello and welcome. Today we want to solve the Cambridge IGSE database task from October-November 2022. So we are going to scroll to our task number 3 where the database question starts. Okay. You are now going to prepare some reports using a suitable package. Import the file N220 to skippers.csv. Use these field names and data types. So in databases, we have to know that we are expected to import CSV files. We are going to import this N220 to skippers.csv, which means comma separated values. And when we are importing, we are taking it from the form or from the file where it is and then bringing it into our database, which we are using Access. So using these field names, so we have a list of field names and the list of data types that we are expected to be using. So for each field name, the specific data type is given. So we can see that we have skipper name and the data type that is expected. And then we have these two columns as well, which is the store and display. And in some rows, we can see that there are no values that are in there, right? But then in other ones, you now see that it's written 4 decimal places under store and 4 decimal places under display. This data that is in these two columns is going to affect the type of data type that we are putting. For example, here we have handicap, and the data type we have been given that we have to match, it's a number data type. But we know that with number data types, it can either be an integer or a boolean or a double. So now we are supposed to say this information that has been given under store and display is going to affect the type of number data type it's going to take. So because it has 4 decimal places, there are decimal places, there are numbers after the comma, this data type becomes a double. But if it's just a number, for example, here we have race 2, these are just numbers. And if it's just numbers, we know that this is just going to be an integer. So the value that the data type that we're going to put here is going to be integer because we don't have any decimal places that are mentioned under store and display. However, after we have imported, this is during the time of implementation of importing. And after we have imported, we have to then take into account this. So we have to know that after importing, we move on to putting the store and the display. So when we are saying displaying, we are saying these 4 decimal places have to be fixed. We have to see 4 decimal places under store. And if the number doesn't have 4 decimal places to show, it has to have the 0 as the placeholder, right? So that's the same with the next table that we are also going to import. So the next table is saying import N220 to class.csv, which as a new table in your database. So we are going to have this one as the second table in the database. Use these field names and data types. So this is the list of field names and this is the list of data types. So now under store and display, we have 2 decimal places store, 2 decimal places display for these through the 3 fields, which is the hull, the beam, and the cell area. So when we are importing, we look in the store and display. If there is nothing that is going to be affecting it, for example, this is a number data type and nothing has been mentioned concerning decimal places, we are going to leave this as an integer, right? A whole number. If then we have 2 decimal places mentioned under the store and display, we are now saying this number that we have here, it has decimal places, so it's not a whole number. So this becomes a double. And we are going to put 2 decimal places. After we import, we go to the design and make sure that we put 2 decimal places there and 2 decimal places under store, and we put it on fixed so that it's all going to show all values in 2 decimal places. Okay, so this is our first question. Now we are going to implement the question in the access. So do the importing of skippers first. So we're going to go in our database. When we open our database, a default table will be there. So we just have to close it so that we can just import a new table into our database, right? So new data source file, this one is a text file because it's a CSV, it's not an Excel workbook. So we don't use Excel workbook. Yes, they look like it's in an Excel when you open the file to view, but because it's saved as CSV, it's a text file. So we select text file. Browse means select, go and find it. Okay, so it's in our ICT past papers. So you just locate where it is, and we want skippers. You select and open, you click on OK. Here you leave it as it is on delimited, right? And then you click on next. Now, on this stage, you have to realize that these are field names and this is the data under the field name. So YOB, this is the data. Yacht name, this is the data. The make, this is the data. This is class. So you have to select first row contains field names, and automatically it's going to make that first line a grayed out and with a line underneath to show that these are headings and this is the data under the headings. Okay. So you click on next. Then at this stage now, you can then choose the data type from here. So this is the field name. This is the data type. So when you click on this one, it's also going to give you the field name and the data type. Field name in the data type. And you can always change the data type to what you want from that. That's one method. But I would prefer you to use next. And then when you get here, you go to your advanced, because this will look similar to what you have in your data, in your question paper. So you can actually see this list going down and the data type going down, which is similar to what we have seen or what we have been given in our question paper. These are the fields going down. This is the data type going down. So it's less likely that you make a mistake. Then skipper name, text, year of birth, number, and it's text till we get to handicap. So we know that this number, there is nothing indicated there. So this is just going to be read as an integer. Text, whether it's short text or long text, is still okay. We'll go with that. So let's see from the database now. We are going to have short text, integer. It says long integer, whether short or it says long, it doesn't matter. We just want to concentrate with the last word here, text, and then integer, and we have text down till we get to handicap. Right. So this is the list of text. Now we go back to the question paper again. From handicap 4 decimal places, and we said these decimal places, they affect the type of data type that we select. If they are decimal places, we're going to select double. So this is going to be double text, and all these are integers because nothing was mentioned concerning any number of decimal places there. So that one, double text integer. We go back to the database. So please remember, you scroll bar here. so that you can see everything. Otherwise, it will just show the first half. If the list of field names is very long, some will be just under. So you need to scroll down till you can see the last with nothing written. So you know that you've taken care of everything. So we said on hand cap, it has to be double, then text, then a list of integer. And we do nothing to skip or indexed. We just leave that as it is. What we are focusing on, we focus on that one and that one. And our date order, usually we want it to be day, month, year. And sometimes in other papers, they actually tell you that make sure the date is day, month, year. So we want to always try and keep this as day, month, year, like that. Okay. But sometimes this is affected by how your computer date is being read. So, for example, this is going to be explained on my computer because also my computer is showing month, year, day, and year. So that's why you see that the date order that will be written there would be matching usually with the one that computer has been set. So that's another thing that you should also make sure it's set correctly when you are doing the database questions. You have to make sure that your day, month, year is already set from settings of your computer. You make sure that it's day, month, year. Okay. And then when you're done, you can just say, okay. And then choose my primary key. Now you can choose the primary key, and the primary key has to match the one that we have been given, which is cell number is a primary key. So we are going to select cell number. So it's either you just click on cell number, this one, and it changes there, or you click the down arrow and you choose the cell number from that option. Okay. Now we can then go next, finish. Yes. Now we have our table skippers imported, and this is the list of information that we have been given. Okay. So now that we have this data, and when you look at the records, it's actually telling you that we have 418 records that we have imported, and this is the data that we have. Immediately after importing a table, right? Immediately after importing a table, you have to take care of the store and display columns. So we go to our home tab and we go to design. So this is the design side where you can actually see the field name and the data type as it was given in the question paper. So despite that we selected this as an integer, if you click on it, that's when you see that we have set it as an integer, but under this list, it will be showing as number. So we have short text, number. It doesn't tell you that this number is a double or what, but if you click on it, then it's going to show under this general, it's going to show to say double. So we know this is a double. And we have been told that on handicap, can we have decimal places that are for automatically, it's just set on auto. Usually, automatically, all decimal places are set on auto. You have to remove that and put a 4, or you click on down arrow and select the 4 from the list. Then, if you just do this and don't set the format, it's going to just show values. So what we are going to do, we will test with this. This is what we have set. So we can now go to our home. We want to see, now let's go to our datasheet view so that we can actually see. Let's save. We want to see that we have set this handicap to 4 decimal places, right? But you can see that if the value is giving us less than 4 decimal places, it cannot exceed 4 decimal places, yes. But for those that are below 4 decimal places that have zeros after a 2 decimal place value, it will just write, for example, 0.92 0.897. Okay. The maximum, it has been set to 4. But for us to make sure that everything shows as 4 decimal places, it has to read as 0.9200. Okay. So what we need to do now is we have to go back. So this is the effect. We have to make sure that when we click on handicap, we click on handicap because that's the one we want to modify, right? So when we click on handicap, we see that we had selected double the moment we're importing, and we then later on added 4 to say decimal places can they be 4. You then go on format. This down arrow that is shown here, you click and you select fixed. So fixed is going to make sure now that all the data that we are going to see, it's going to be shown as 4 decimal places. So we are going to see now that 0.92, 2 zeros have been added, so that the number of decimal places are the same throughout. There are 4 decimal places fixed. So if there are supposed to be 3, a 0 is added to make sure that it comes in as a placeholder and it's going to sit there and make sure every data is shown as 4 decimal places. Okay. So now we are done with this one. We are going to close it so that we always work with a clear work area. And under tables, we have our table skippers that we have imported. And now we are now going to the second, table that we need to import. Import file N2202 class.csv as a new table in your database, right? So we are importing in the same database that we are working on. We've already opened the database. We have already imported one table. We are now going to import another table, right? Which is a CSV. And this table is read as a text file. When we're importing, this is a text file. Use the field names and data types, right? So these are the field names. These are the data types. As usual, we check our store, we check our display. So these are going to affect the type of data type that we have here. Here, nothing is written. So we're going to put that as integer and those 3 as double. When we have done importing them, we then take the 2 decimal places, we select 2 decimal places for the 3 fields, right? Then after that, we then set it to fixed for these 3 fields, fixed, so that it displays as 2 decimal places for every row of data that we have under the helping in say. So we are now going to go to our database. And now we want to go to external because we are taking this data from an external source, right, and bringing it into our Access. New data source from file. It's not an Excel workbook, we agreed, it's a text file. Then we click on browse. Then we choose the one that we want. It's class. Let's just confirm. Yes, it's class. We click on class and then open. Delimited, we leave it like that. Next, first rows contains field names like that. Next. Here, we now go to advanced to check now. So we are now looking at this list of field names and the data types that we are given. So we go back to our question paper. Now we know it has to be text up until we get to crew, which is an integer. And you notice that the way they are written in the question paper, they are in the order, right? So they are actually following, this order is actually following the same order that is going to be shown in the database. So you are very safe in just checking that this is text till I get to crew. This order has not been changed in the database. So this has to be integer, right? Crew has to be integer. So you go back, you are just saying text, 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 text till I get to crew. Crew has to be integer. So this order is the same order that is shown in the question paper. And we also don't we should not worry whether it's written short or long text. We will just leave it as it is. Long integer, we leave it as it is, as long as we've text, 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 text down to integer. And remember, we have to scroll down till we see the last item, right? Till we see the last item, and we can see that we ended up on crew, but there were other fields that were down. So if you're not very careful here, you can actually leave this without making the necessary changes if needed, if you don't scroll down here. Okay, so now we have up to crew, which is integer. And then after crew, we have how, beam, and cell, which is double, double, double. Usually, the access will actually give us the correct data type, right? We need to recheck, however, because sometimes there are things or there are fields like telephone where the access would take it as a number, right? But we would have to take it as a text, and the question paper will actually tell you that it's a text. So you need to recheck everything so that you confirm. So the telephone column, despite having numbers, it has to be text because it starts with a 0 and it has spaces. Space is a character. So because it has spaces in between, it has to be text. So we need to be very careful and check all the fields throughout, and then we are happy with our doubles, and then we go and click on okay. So after that, we then go on to choosing the primary key, and the primary key is class code, right? Set class code as primary key. So we're going to go to our database and select class code. So either we are selecting it there, or you click the down arrow and then select class code like that. And it will actually highlight class code. And then you say finish, right? So what did we agree? After importing, you open your datasheet view, you see your fields. This is the list of fields that we have. But we have to take care now of these fields. How, beam, cell. These fields we were told that they have to be 2 decimal places, right? So when there are 2 decimal places and they have to be fixed, so we should see some consistency with these values. All digits after the comma, we just have to see 2 digits after the comma for the 3 fields. Okay, so we are going to go to our home and we go to design. And we know that we are taking care of how, beam, and cell. So it's a double, but in decimal places, it's saying auto. So it's just picking. We are going to say we want 2, and it has to be fixed. So we go on format, fixed, right? We do the same for beam. Beam, it has to be. So you can actually even remove and write your 2. And then you go to fixed, to format and select on fixed. Then we go to cell area, remove the auto, type into format, fixed, right? So we are done with that. Then we go to our home so that we can see the datasheet view. Okay, we have to always remember to save. And this is the changes that we have done. So we can see that after the comma, all digits are now fixed to 2 decimal places, fixed to 2 decimal places. So this is the data that we want, right? This is our 2 tables. And then when we go to our question paper, we will realize that it wants us to take a screenshot right? We have saved the first question, that's question 11. It is the two tables that we want to import, and we have imported. The evidence document has marks. So we should always make sure that when they want us to take a screenshot, we take the screenshot and put it as our evidence. Okay. Now, take a screenshot evidence of the table structures showing primary keys, field names, and data types. Place this in your evidence document. Evidence 4. So it means in your evidence document, you're supposed to go to evidence 4, and then you put screenshot of evidence of the table structures in your test. Now we have two tables. So in your access, you go to your design. So you take these from the design. This sign here shows that this is the primary key. So you have to make sure that the table name there is showing the field names, the data type, and the primary key is showing. And you use your snipping tool. You click on new, and then you make sure that you take that. That's the area that we want, okay, to take the screenshot. So you're taking that as the screenshot. And then for the other table again, oh, by the way, snipping tool can actually take a video, okay? So it was selected on video. That's why it was ready to take a video of the area selected. But we always have to make sure that it's on snip just to take a picture. So I'm going to minimize, and we go to our skip pass. This one we are just going to close because we have already taken the screenshot. And then you go to data, to the design for this one. You go on snipping tool, new, you also snip like that. So this is the picture that you'd have taken. It is the name, it shows the primary key, the field names, and the data types. So you take that and then you paste it. So when you're pasting, you're just going to click on copy there. And when you have copied, you now go to your evidence document, and then you go on paste and paste under evidence 4. Okay. So in your evidence document, you go on to evidence 4, and then you snip, you paste. So because the evidence document was already given, this is step 11, evidence 4 here. So you Control V, and then you put. So you are putting your two tables that you have input, that you have taken the snip, and then you paste the snip to show evidence that this is what you have done. Okay. So this is the end of question 11. Now we can take a break. Let's meet on question 12. Let's do this.